You're listening to the Wilmac Wire, the podcast that's designed to give you a glimpse into a growing SaaS company, specifically in the realm of customer interaction technology. From customer experience to data management, we'll talk about it here. Thank you for tuning in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Wilmac Wire. My name is Emily Miller from Wilmac Technologies, and today we've got an event recap for you. We hosted an event up in Toronto back in March called Simplifying and Solving TD Bank's Data Management Challenges. We like to call it our Roadshow event because we went up to our Toronto office and we got to sit down and speak in a panel discussion with TD Bank, who is one of our Continuity Replay customers. Specifically, Bruno, Meneses, and Stephen Chan from the TD Bank team, who we work very closely with. And along with them on the panel, we had Garry White, who is Wilmac's Enterprise Information Archiving Sales Director. Beyond that, as expected, yours truly, I moderated the conversation. In today's episode, you can expect to hear more about TD Bank and their data management challenges, the disparate systems that they were dealing with, the data locked in proprietary and encrypted formats, the strict retention regulations that they're subject to, and how they're trying to future-proof their data management strategy in the future. And a big part of that is with Wilmac's Continuity Replay. So you can expect to hear that as the main part of the conversation today. I will say that this episode is going to be a little bit longer than our normal episodes because it is the full recording of the event. So stick with us. There's a lot of great content in here. Again, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was a great event. I thoroughly enjoyed being there and being there in person, but I have to say it's a great listen afterwards. I hope you enjoy. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. We have a nice intimate group here. Please keep ordering drinks and eat food. I don't want to have to explain it when I take it back over the border. To get things started, though, we'll do some brief introductions. I'll give you some context. I will say we are going to have a fun little quiz at the end, so pay attention. There are prizes. And then we'll just get right into the conversation with Garry, Bruno, and Stephen. So to start things off, my name is Emily Miller. I'm the Director of Marketing at Wilmac Technologies. I'm sure you all noticed my name in your inbox. As Bruno and Stephen know for a fact that's true, I'm persistent when it comes to emails. So you've been getting all the reminders from me. So on behalf of the marketing team, thank you for coming. And our speakers today, first one is Bruno Meneses. He is the Senior Product Manager at TD. Bruno, thanks for joining us. Next up, we have Stephen Chan, the Senior Technology Lead at TD, sitting right next to me. And last but not least, we have Garry White, who is holding the small microphone from the team at Wilmac Technologies. And he's worked with Bruno and Stephen in the past, so that'd be good for him to join the conversation today. So before we jump into the questions, obviously most people in this room are dealing with similar challenges. You're subject to retention regulations for your customer interaction data, for your call recordings, emails, web chats, all that fun stuff. And from that stems other challenges. You have to keep that data. Okay, you move to a new system. Well, now that data is siloed. How do you access it? It's locked in proprietary and encrypted formats. How do you get it out of there? So we're going to talk more about that. That's kind of going to be the theme of our conversation tonight, coming from the perspective of Bruno and Stephen. And like I said, we want to bring someone in who's been through these challenges firsthand and can share some and shed some light on how they're working through those challenges. So again, Bruno, Stephen, thanks for joining us. So we're going to jump right in. We have 6 questions planned. Then we'll have a light Q&A, and then we'll jump into the quiz, and then we'll be back to some networking. All right, so starting things off, what are the biggest challenges that you face in managing large volumes of data across diverse systems? Stephen, we'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emily. As you kind of mentioned, TD Bank, we have a lot of acquisitions over the last couple of years, or even many other years, and the big challenge is retention of the recordings for them, right? We bought MBNA 7-10 years ago. They were using the NICE format. We're using Verint. So bringing them in, Verint usually costs an arm and a leg to convert to their format. So the decision was, okay, let's try to bring them in a generic format and keep it in our big data lake so that, in the future, if we keep on moving different platforms, it's, all in a centralized location. So that's that's definitely the big challenge, like trying to understand all the different formats, converting it, and moving it into our central location.
Yeah.
The other challenge, just the sheer amount of data. TD, we like to keep our data for a very long time. So when we're trying to migrate data from our other systems into the one single platform, it continues to be a challenge still to validate that we're getting all the recordings that we actually have, because when you're talking about millions and billions of recordings, it's kind of hard to manually count. So just trying to validate, getting the technical teams trying to validate that, from a compliance perspective, we have all the recordings and we're good to delete it from all the old locations. And then last but not least is timing. So transferring recordings from different systems takes a lot of time. It's not like files or databases where it's one shot. What we're finding is call recordings are all very small files. So transferring them, there's a lot of checksums in between for all the millions of files that are getting sent across. So it's been taking us a very long time. We had like a petabyte of data. I think we're still at it. It's been probably a year and a half trying to transfer this data. So again, that's been a big challenge.
Would you say you had different retention policies depending on where the data came from, Stephen? I only say because we had a customer that had large amounts of data, and what they found was they couldn't diversify that data or couldn't understand where that data necessarily was coming from. So they had basically their worst case scenario rule and how to apply that to everything. Do you think that was something that you had to achieve as well?
We are definitely once we purchase a new business or whenever book of record, they do have their own kind of retention period, and we do have to try to match it to our own. And to your point, right? We kind of go with the worst case scenarios for
and even different industry. Like we got your insurance, you got your wealth, you have your personal banking, you have your business banking. Each area seems to have different guidelines that we need to eventually adjust to.
Yeah. Right. So, quite a few things there. We've got siloed systems. You have different requirements along different business units. Like you said, Stephen, time is a limitation, and just the sheer amount of data. Like moving that amount of data takes a lot of time and effort. So, you guys nailed it. First question, go. Great. Okay, we'll move into that second question now. What are some of the specific compliance requirements that drive your data management decisions? So, Stephen, I'll pass that one to you first as well.
For sure. So PCI is one of our primary ones. So the big reasons why we try to consolidate our data is because we do have a lot of old antiquated systems, and of course, trying to purchase those other businesses that we purchase as well. We try to find a secure location for them, right? So we ended up moving everything to our Azure portal into, again, a generic format, and to use continuity as a kind of playback system. It kind of helped us to meet our PCI compliancy, because Azure is safe and secure, and then using that front end to replay that call, and then as well, Bill 64, Law 25, I think it is. So that was a new regulation that the Quebec put in place. We're still trying to figure it out ourselves, but we're now at least centralizing kind of all our data, so we can at least search for our data properly instead of trying to set different policies on different systems. So big Bill 64 is going to be playing big in kind of our next chapter of our journey.
Yeah, I think PCI is a huge one. We see that quite often across other customers as well. And certainly to control the amount of data that they have to control in specific ways, there are lots of limitations because that data touches so many different systems and infrastructure that you manage and maintain. And I can certainly speak to one other project that we did with a customer where, in that case, we actually had to export and take their data away from their infrastructure and manage it completely separately. Because that gave them the controls to have the confidence that they were managing it more appropriately. Certainly from our view, certainly my view within Wilmac is, the compliance regulations are tough to navigate, and it's down to each of the companies to understand what gives you the safety that you want. But it's our responsibility to listen to you and understand what are the controls that you need to feel safe, to feel that you're compliant. And like you said, thankfully, continuity gives you that flexibility to do that. Now, not completely there, and I'm sure it will evolve, and it will continue to evolve with constant communication. And it'll take a while. I don't think we'll ever 100% get there. But we have to be agile and quick enough to respond when we need to as well. So.
Yeah. One thing you touched on, that, for example, our existing recording solutions. Previously, the businesses, we have thousands. I would say thousands, maybe hundreds of people who have access to recordings, right? So if we archived it in, say, Verint or NICE, they actually have access to all, 10 years of data or whatever that they have. So that's a risk as well, right? Because, from a PCI standpoint, they're only supposed to get access to data that's kind of relevant to their role. By kind of trying to limit our duration online for our Verint systems, our existing systems, we kind of limit their access to say 1 year's worth of data. We're trying to get that shortened down, and then for the archive system, it's more restrictive on who has access to it.
Yeah. Where do you stand on kind of the capture side of things in terms of? I'm assuming you have PCI controls and it's pause and resume perhaps, or automatically blanketed from the recording. But do you have any kind of redaction controls internally as well, or where do you kind of stand on that?
We are working on that. Let's call it that way. Yeah, but 4.0 kind of threw us a little spin to things. Yeah. PCI 4.0, so we are working, trying to be as agile as possible and keeping our forward-thinking mindset to kind of have some of the technology solutions to redact and so forth. And that includes working with you guys, because I think that area is an opportunity that we need to kind of work on.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, PCI is a huge one. And you mentioned Bill 64 as well. I actually didn't, as you can probably tell from my accent from the UK, but I didn't actually know what Bill 64 was. I had to Google it beforehand. But it's akin to GDPR
yes.
We have in the UK about data controls, which is very, very prevalent, obviously, about personal information and those types of things, which is equally important. But like you said, having that flexibility and agility to react, both from a technology perspective and a process perspective, organizationally is very important. So.
Great, yeah, love it. Thanks for sharing, you guys. Okay, we'll move into question 3. Bruno, I'm going to toss this one to you after
Fantastic.
I read it. So with evolving regulations, how do you ensure that TD remains agile and compliant in a complex regulatory landscape?
All right, so first of all, I want to give everyone a little bit more background on me. I come from telecommunications, and there is not a regulatory problem there. It's really first one to market is the stream there. And coming into the bank, now I've been in the bank for a bit, I now have started to understand being federally regulated, how fun it is to adjust and have so many audits and so forth on you. So I want to kind of key things that I brought in is meeting with my key partners quite often is one of my things I've kind of learned. So for my compliance, my risk teams, my data stewards, kind of keeping them involved and understanding the enhance of that. I've also embedded in, we just went into Agile. So we've kind of went from that whole waterfall to Agile. And so embedding that conversation with our product owners, keeping that compliance and retention and risk top of mind has also been something that we've been kind of more having conversations around. And then at the same time, something we've touched base a little bit already right now is looking at the technologies and starting to understand how we can like look at some reduction, keeping more fluid and flexible. I'll give you guys an example. Current solution, this PCI to 4.0, CVV reduction. So it's a 3-digit, right? We had solutions in place that were removing credit card and so forth. And when it came to like reducing CVV, we were redacting like addresses, for example. And then our compliance partners, when they were doing audits and so forth, it was a lot of miss areas. So it wasn't keeping the technology in mind for the future. So to be nimble seems like something also that I've been kind of running through to get into the compliance area. Anything I missed, Stephen? No, you're good.
No, I think we see that in everyone we speak to, and I think something we try to do at Wilmac, and I know it's appreciated by many customers, to be kind of play well with others. Let's put it that way. You kind of alluded to like Verint and NICE and some of the traditional manufacturers. Not all vendors play well with each other, or not all have, their technology doesn't necessarily allow for other technologies to make use of the data. They perhaps hold it in for themselves. I'm not just talking about the data itself, but the actual applications and how they interact. And maybe there's not open APIs and those types of technology. And it's good to hear you say that you're focused on the technology, because in reality, I think there's such complexity these days in how you interact with your customers, what you have to maintain internally from a security and regulatory perspective, the amount of regulations that you have to manage, the amount of lines of business you have to manage. If all of your different technologies don't play well with each other, then you're kind of shoehorning yourselves, I suppose, into potential areas of conflict and mistake. So certainly one of the emphases for us is to learn from that and try and play well with others, if that makes more sense. So yeah, it's good to hear you say that.
Yeah, no, appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Moving into our next question. What advice would you give other financial institutions in managing compliance and data governance effectively? Bruno?
See, the funny part is that Wilmac thinks I can give other people advice. I was here. I signed up to get advice from other people that were around, not for me to give anybody else advice. So let's put that straight out there first. But I would say try to be ahead of it. Expect the unexpected on the regulations. I was just talking to a few folks about like even being in these sessions and so forth, understanding like what are other people already anticipating from a regulations, retention, are you seeing the industry go a certain direction? Having that, have that conversation when you're networking, and then taking that back and being prepared to kind of get ahead of that, I found very, very useful in my 1 or 2 year tenure of this lovely compliance and regulation experience. The other piece I would say is keeping it, sorry, just want to make sure, data governance. The other piece I would have to say is going back to the technology and automation. So Stephen and I, we have a lot of conversations about this, is we're very restricted on our data retention policies within the bank. And I love how sometimes these data stewards come to these data owners and say, you know, I'm going to plot something like end of customer life plus 8 years. Then you can get rid of the data. Fantastic. So I'll go to Stephen. How do I get that done? And Stephen will come back to me and say, that's not going to be easy. And so we're working with our technology and teams and so forth, and making sure our data stewards understand, like there has to be a give and take is my key. There has to be a fine line. They have to understand. They don't understand all the time contact center business and so forth. They're looking at it at an industry level, and where we have to have a lot of that negotiation. And I feel that has also been a very helpful tip for myself to provide.
Yeah. I mean, certainly don't come to me for financial compliance advice, as Bruno suggested. I think you touched on it earlier about internal communication is very key. within organizations, involve all the stakeholders, involve the different business units, the different people that are my objectives to achieve, and have a common objective and make sure everything's out on the table. I think from a Wilmac perspective, as a vendor perspective, to partner with you, it's our key responsibility to have external communication. What I mean by that is to share with you networking events like this, connect our customers, connect what we're seeing around the industry, what are other people doing, connect people, like-minded people. Because like you said, you learn more about not just internally, but also externally, what are other people doing, and it might not necessarily work for you, but at least you have ideas to understand and connect with not just networking events like this, but larger conference events, as well as more intimate meetings and those types of things. So you talked about internal communication. I think our responsibility, or certainly my viewpoint on that, is connecting like-minded people and having an external, not really communication, more community, I think, is powerful. So.
Yeah. Stephen, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, just on the retention poly of what kind of Bruno mentioned, right? Like, yeah, we are struggling on sometimes, like, I think the legacy thinking was the interaction plus 7 years, or 7 years till the retention ends with the customer. So we never figured that out properly. So some people's mindset was like, oh, you might as well just keep it forever.
Is that like on the, sorry, Stephen, is that like on the insurance side? Where it's life insurance?
Yeah, and I think that's what we're kind of settling on. We're trying to get our compliance people to understand, but it's like, yeah, I think like banking, it's like, okay, 7 years, but I think we're good, 7 or 10 years. And then insurance, it's for some reason, it's all very antiquated. Like, why would you take consent over the phone, right? It's like, have better ways to do it. So that's the business to figure out, but it's like, it seems like for insurance, it's like keeping forever almost, right? Yeah, so it's definitely, I think sometimes the compliance doesn't keep, or the business doesn't keep track with the compliance, right? Because in my opinion, like, take some of this over paper and stuff, and you actually file it, and don't take it in over recordings or things that are digital, because it's so hard to start deleting. But I guess that's a business process too. And I think that's where, like, I think at some point we'll get to as well, is that, yeah, like, taking credit cards over the phone is antiquated, right? Like, there's like multi-factor, like, say, like over your phone, right? There's better ways now, I think, to do this, and I think companies need to evolve.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think we're in such a transitioning period of how people interact with the consumer. I don't know if you echo that thought, but yeah, I can't remember the last time I gave my credit card details over the phone, because there are a multitude of other ways I can interact with my bank, the organisation, or any organisation in that sense. So, but again, I suppose that comes back to the internal communication and understanding business processes, consumer change, and aligning.
Exactly, and that goes back to, like, negotiating with your business partners, right? On like what's out there, technology, like this is causing us a headache, right? From a compliance perspective, here's our technology, we can serve you. Let's try it out, sample it. Let's keep moving. Like, you got to push that needle sometimes, because they don't realize. Like, our operation teams don't realize as much impact on the compliance side than we do.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, oh no, this process is easy. We've always done it this way.
Yeah, exactly. Or exactly the complex. Yeah.
X amount of pain. Yeah. And is it even needed anymore? Which I'm sure is a question that probably comes up with everyone in the room. So.
Interesting. Bruno, I just want to, you're asking for advice from the group, but you just gave some pretty good advice. So thank you. Nailed it.
I can serve that drink after this, by the way.
Okay, moving into the next question, guys. How has continuity replay impacted your data management and compliance strategy at TD? Just to give some context, continuity replay, they refer to it a few times as continuity. It's Wilmac's product that the TD leverages to help with navigate the challenges that we're talking about. So, Bruno, I'll direct that question to you to start off.
Yeah, so I think Stephen kind of alluded. We had a lot of acquisitions, different, I guess, sequences of instances of recording. So where continuity has come and helped us is decrypting, getting all centralized, one location, everything good. It's helped us kind of get our compliance officers kind of more aligned to understand, it's now removed from or subject to removed from our variants and so forth, and now going to be on our continuity platform with a limited, restricted access, right? So it keeps them at ease as that's restricted at this point. As well, it gives us audit capabilities, abilities to have selected users with accesses and so forth to access their recordings, limitations to what their need, not the entire business. So that's where continuity has been. It's operationalized it, helped us operationalize it a little bit better than having various systems and controlling it there. That's where I would say right now continuity has been supporting us from still opportunities. I think we talked about it.
Yeah, I have a note down on my hair saying it's not all sunshine and roses.
No, it's not all sunshine and roses. Yeah, but we are happy. So just for everyone to be I'm being very transparent. I told these guys I'm not going to be here it's not a sales pitch. It's really a thing. Their front end, we're on a very old system. We are in conversations of they've took a lot of our feedback and put it into a better or more operationalized front end. But it has sufficed for our job. Harry here is my product owner who owns this asset and listens to our customers every day from our operations. So we understand our challenges, but Daryl and team have heard, and we're in the mix to get it in a better place. And there's other things that we need to talk about, like reduction of some sort, PCI and so forth. But at this time, we are definitely more operationally efficient, not having in various areas, all in one, and very limited access to selected users.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think there is no doubt that there is more you want to achieve with the platform, and I think there's more that we want to deliver with the platform. And as we kind of touched on a couple of times, we're going on that journey as partners together with TD to do so. And it's important, like you said, that we listen to your challenges and reflect that. Yes, we solved some of the big pains and the big hurdles, but there's always more to go through and improve on. And that's the journey that we're on together. Like I said, I don't think that journey is going to stop anytime soon, which is a good thing, because ultimately we're in the business to solve challenges, and unfortunately in your business, challenges always present themselves. So, and I mean, and speaking to a continuity, again, it's not a sales pitch, but this kind of idea of centralizing your data and taking control of your data and knowing where it is and how to access it and being able to operate, can't say that word now.
Operational.
Thank you. is a powerful thing, because the data has a value, intrinsic value to the company, and usually for the first 12 to maybe 18 months, that value is quality management, WFO, immediate reaction to the interaction with your customer, perhaps, or trading in this example and rectifying. But after that point, the value of that interaction becomes less, not necessarily from a business perspective, but it becomes regulatory and compliance in terms of the value you have to keep that data. And therefore, does it make sense to still utilize that in WFO platforms when you could make more sense of it, either from a storage perspective and saving money on storage, having more control from an audit perspective where it is? It makes more sense to take it out of those WFO platforms in many cases. Certainly, if you look at kind of the transition to things like CCaaS and storage in the cloud, obviously storing data in the cloud long term has costs associated with it. You have your own storage mechanisms that you want to make use of.
Thank you, Garry, for reminding me about the storage. We're on a lot of on-prem, and our permanent book of record storage is on a cloud, which we've saved quite a bit on operational costs and so forth. So yes, we did actually get some savings over there as well, centralizing it into there for sure.
Yeah, but it's yeah, like I said, giving customers the flexibility. My tagline is always, it's your data. What do you want to do with it? Where do you need to? How do you need to access it? Who needs to access it? What controls do you need to have in place with it? And let's hopefully achieve those goals. So that's my only sales pitch today. Sorry.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think I saw a very common thread through kind of the last two questions, going back to the community piece, the partnership piece, just keeping the conversation going, because you're not alone in dealing with these challenges. So other people are dealing with it and handling it, and it's good to communicate based on that. So, all right. Anything else to add on this question? No?
I am good.
All right. Last one. Then we got prizes. Okay, what trends do you see emerging in data management and compliance, and how are you preparing to address them?
I'm not prepared for this one. Are you?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like with everything else, AI, right? AI has been huge. AI and analytics, right? So, I kind of talk on two sides of my mouth, and we're still trying to figure it out, because we say, okay, this is antiquated old data that we're trying to archive and historical, but then now once we consolidate all the platforms to one spot, the analytics teams and AI teams come to us and say, oh, we want to start analyzing call recording, because that's like the best thing that's the best place to get a lot of data, right, in conversations. So I think that's been a big trend for us. Like the traditional call recording platforms, I think they're still trying to work on the analytics, right? Where, there's other vendors like, Microsoft, Google, and, those smaller vendors are more nimble, and they have a more, I guess, refined analytics and AI platforms. So, the plan. So the plan is like, okay, once we have it centralized, then it's easy to say feed these big analytical engines or AI engines the data. So I think that is a pattern we're trying to work through, in the sense that right now continuity and stuff is more, I guess, historical based, right? So the analytics is more based on historical, and the AI is based on historical. But of course, the business is always try to run real-time analytics and real-time AI. So our strategies are kind of like coming like they're not matching, right? They're butting heads. So that's what we're trying to work out.
Yeah, I would echo that. From what I've seen a lot of customers now try and bring analytics in-house, utilizing engines as opposed to vendors, if that makes sense. Rather than buying an analytics solution per se and kind of making it try and fit in for your organization, they're taking kind of engines developed by the likes of Google and those types of things and building their own analytics tools internally. Also, you see, I know some of the vendors last year were caught up in privacy issues and utilization of third-party data when it was stored in the cloud, or utilizing analytics engines and how that would feed into their AI models. And I know there's a lot of nervousness about that. Is your data going to be used in other places? So again, that kind of feeds into the fact that a lot of people are bringing that in-house.
Yeah.
Like you said, create their own data lake per se, and connect that engines into that wealth of data and make use of it. Also connected to that, obviously, is you can't have a data lake unless all the data can be normalized in a common model as well. Otherwise, it's siloed in that respect. So yeah, definitely see that as well.
Yeah.
All right, Bruno, anything to add?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, easy enough then. Any questions from the audience? No?
Does Wilmac has any reconciliation for how? My understanding, you moved and you normalized the historical data. You're moving from the real time. You're capturing and moving data now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make sure that everything goes forward supposed to be captured?
I'll let Garry answer first if they have a tool.
Very good question. It all depends on the source system that you originally captured on, and there are ways and means that we can do it today with certain systems. They need to be improved, for sure. It's a regular thing for us to say, okay, we have certain controls on the application layer, but from a continuity perspective, you are supposed to receive 20,000 files today. Did you receive 20,000 files today? That's kind of simplifying it, but that's the general ask, I suppose. And it is something that we are improving on, I would say. We're not there yet, to be frank. But we do have certain controls in place that kind of satisfy as an MVP, like a minimal viable. But that's not a good place to stay. I think we need to improve on those. And I'm looking at Bob here, who's kind of our head of development. But improving the audit trails, improving our capabilities in that space, improving the verification and consolidation is a regular ask from all of our customers. So, apologies, I can't give you like a yes or no answer, but it's not necessarily a yes or no.
We do have an outstanding.
I mean, from the business perspective or the customer, we do. We still have that challenge. Like we said, like it's billions of files. So we're getting manifests from like our vendors say, okay, these are all the files that you're supposed to have, and then we get manifests on our side and compare. These are all the files we're supposed to have, and then we tried that, and then we're trying to right now. Okay. We got to make sure all the file sizes are all the right. So now it's like, okay, get the manifest as well as the file size. So with that, and then I think we still don't understand, because you have to convert them. So it's like, how many are actually like converting properly versus not? So I think that's the more challenging one too. So would like to definitely work further on that. So we're still kind of on that journey. But it's so to be honest, I think. Right now, we're still keeping, say, like the old Verint archive, so we're kind of keeping 2 copies, but at some time, it's going to be very unmanageable to keep so many different copies of the same file, right? And
Verint pushing expert. They have Verint.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Tool, right? So.
Yeah, I know Nextera very well, actually, Again, that depends on what you mean by reconciliation, because I know they're looking more at was an interaction actually recorded, and can you flag up if an interaction wasn't recorded?
Exactly. You need to be sure everything is captured. This is the first step, and then you need to make sure it's actually.
Yeah, I for my sins actually. Worked with Nextera quite a lot in the UK. I say for my sins, sorry, that's a joke, but middling success, I think. I certainly believe that's where the industry is going, using AI tools of that nature to automate reconciliation and those types of things. Mm-hmm. But you already touched on there's different environments, so reconciliation for Stephen on the contact center will mean something very different to trading floor. But I'd love to have that conversation after, actually, because I don't think I can give you justice in this answer. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we've spoken a lot, or you've spoken a lot about legacy data and manipulation of that legacy data from one format to another, but is this solution also serving as your archive of that legacy data, and is it also serving as your archive of non-legacy data, like current data?
Depends on which system. But yes, it has not exactly real-time same-day data, but previous day data, it would have the archive there. Yeah, and chat, I think, because we're data multi-channel now, so chat is instantaneous a couple hours, but like voice is like next day.
Yeah, and that's where I was saying earlier that like our strategies are kind of mixing with each other, because originally it was only historical, right? But now with all the emergence of AI, it's like, okay, like I want more like today's data or something like that. Then we keep on bringing the newest data in as well. So it's kind of like a mix and match right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else? Obviously, we'll have time after this to chat, so we can keep the conversation going.
I have a question.
All right.
So in your story, Bruno, sorry to call you out, when you were talking about the drop-in retention policy and that being difficult to enforce, can Can you talk a little bit about like what makes it difficult? Is it an operational issue? Is it a business requirements confusion? Is it that you're trying to keep your storage consumption really low? Like what leads to that friction?
It's less on, I think, on the storage consumption right now. It's the business and their operational needs.
Yeah.
Example, I think, like the life insurance policies, for example. So like you're getting one area who is saying data retention is X, but then you have your legal department who's like, no, I need those policies forever. And so I'm trying to like coordinate who's like, you guys got to understand, and this is where they have the whole negotiation on that whole policy situation, so that we kind of get that alignment, so that we can, because the right hand doesn't speak to the left, and you're kind of in the middle trying to push it there. So I hope that I've got the detail.
Yeah, I can certainly stress that you're not alone in that.
Oh yeah, no, I
I think every organization we've worked with, there has been some debate, to put it politely, between different departments on how long they keep data for and different lines of business. So you're certainly not alone in that challenge.
Good question. Okay, I'll move us in. You guys have anything else to share before we wrap up? No? Thank you, Paul, for all your insight. Bruno, Stephen, Gary, thank you guys for sharing today. We'll be bringing on more food and drinks. We'll be in here for a while, so please feel free to get up and help us now. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Wilmac Wire. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform or visiting our website at www.wilmactech.com. You can also watch the full video recordings of every episode on our YouTube channel. Thank you for being a part of our community, and again, thank you for listening to the Wilmac Wire.